Well, baseball season is almost upon us. We are in the early stages of March. We are playing exhibition baseball in Florida and Arizona. So we can almost feel first pitch getting closer and closer. So I thought it made sense to open a baseball game for this episode of Unsealed. I threw out a poll on Twitter on the Retro Referee account, which talks about sports games, and I asked which game I should open, whether it's bottom of the ninth 97 or whether it's MVP Baseball 2004. MVP won. However, as a bonus, I'm going to do both in this particular episode. I'm a little concerned about MVP Baseball because it sounds like the disc is loose in there, so I'm a little worried about this one, but we'll get to that second. Let's talk about bottom of the ninth 97. I talked a little bit about bottom of the ninth in the past. It is based on an arcade game that Konami had published where you kind of put more money in order to extend your time in the game and to try and beat the computer opponent. There's a home version of that for the PlayStation as well as for the N64, and this is the follow-up to that particular game. I believe, if I'm looking here, that this has MLBPA stats, but it doesn't have the Major League Baseball license, hence the MLBPA seal that we see up there. This, I believe, is a 1996 release, although I don't have an exact year on here. Usually you get a copyright year, but we're going to run with 1996 here. So are you ready for the big leagues? Actually, I think this is 97, now that I'm thinking about it. So are you ready for the big leagues? And we have a long list of features, and you can see some of the in-game graphics, and it doesn't look a lot different from the original game. The players are still very blocky, at least in terms of the models, but Konami was trying to walk that line between arcade and simulation, much like Tecmo tried to do with Tecmo Super Baseball during the 16-bit era. When we take a look at this list of features, there are quite a few. The most realistic game of baseball gets juiced for 1997. Now remember, in 1997, we were also seeing Triple Play making its debut on the PlayStation, coming over from the Genesis. Plus, we were still seeing game releases from Sony as well in terms of baseball. We had also seen a Bases Loaded release a year prior. So we do have some competition in the baseball video game arena at this point. New 3D graphics put you on the diamond. Well, we'll see about that. New multiple camera angles, not a bad seat in the house. So now Konami's starting to use different camera angles, which is certainly a help. New scenario mode, put a spin on history with these classic baseball moments. So now we have like a scenario type deal, which adds to replayability. New, you can play day or night games, that's a plus. Over 750 real Major League Baseball players with all the stats, all the ratings, and all the photos, so that's definitely a plus. While you weren't able to play as the Red Sox or the Yankees or the Mets or the Dodgers, you were able to play as the players that you enjoy following day in and day out on the diamond. Improved batting system lets you call the shots. Swing batter. So we have a reference to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I think is pretty funny. There's a training mode where you can sharpen your skills before you hit the field. That's a plus. Play out a season, jump to the playoffs, or head right to the championship. So you have different gameplay modes. Full play-by-play, quote-unquote, and umpire announcing. The Konami Sports Series delivers the hits. So we're going to go ahead and check this out. Interestingly enough here, if you take a look at the memory card requirements, up to 14 blocks of memory. So you can pretty much plan, if you're playing a full season in this game, that you're going to be taking an entire memory card in terms of how much space it takes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up right here so you can kind of see the plastic come off. I always tend to forget to do that sometimes. And that's the whole idea of this series, to show you guys as I open up these games. There we go. And we do have the ID sticker at the top, bottom of the ninth, 97. So we're going to go ahead and take that off, and we're going to take a look at the disc that's on the inside. This, unlike MVP 2004, feels like it's been preserved pretty well. Hasn't been beaten up either in shipping or in storage, wherever it had been sitting. When we open the game case, I want to be careful. Okay. So the game disc is not very exciting to look at, if we're being completely honest. It is just a silver disc with blue writing, bottom of the ninth, 97. So no disc art, which is kind of sad. We do have an ad here for NBA in the Zone 98. So I believe that's the sequel to NBA In the Zone 2, which I actually think pretty highly of. Here's the front cover. On the inside, we do have one of those warranty cards that I like talking about so very much, and it is in blue. But everything else in the guide is in black and white, which is kind of disappointing, but not completely unexpected. Let's see what the manual tells us. So it talks about batting and pitching and things. The batting uses a batting cursor, which I'm not really a fan of. I like to just kind of swing the bat and make it all about timing instead of moving a cursor around, but that's just me. Perhaps you, as a baseball video game fan, your opinion may differ, and that, of course, is perfectly okay. So it talks about pitching, fielding, defense, shows you how to soft reset, or if you hold down the start and select buttons for 2 seconds, you can reset the game. That's a nice little feature, instead of just hitting the reset button on your PlayStation and having to go all the way through the startup screen again. There are different control types. There's a bunch of different ones here. You can pick the one that you want when you start playing. Oh, I didn't notice this before. Check out the rating on the front. It's K through A. So before E for everyone was implemented, K through A was kids to adults. That was the original everyone rating from the ESRB. So that's kind of a cool throwback. More controller features. That was just for fielding and batting. Here's for pitching and for running. So it's almost too complex for its own good. And again, considering Bottom of the Ninth got its start as an arcade game, I'm a little surprised that Konami wanted to go full-on simulation, or at least try that style. That's really not what they excel at. They excel more at like the arcade-style experience, but it is what it is. Fatigue factor is another sign of a simulation baseball game. Talking about the memory card, there are 15 blocks on a memory card. You can save your Bottom of the Ninth 97 season data, scenario data, trade data, and the option data if you have at least 5 blocks open. The size of the game is variable, however, and don't insert or remove a memory card during a save, well, of course, because you wind up corrupting the data. So the different gameplay modes, one player versus the computer, one player versus another player. Spectator, where you can just watch a demo. You can watch the game play out like you would watch on TV. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but some people would, especially if you're capturing game footage for your YouTube channel, for example. Training, scenario, which is like the situational baseball we talked about. Season play, between 0 and 14 teams in either the Apollo or Neptune League. So again, you can't use National and American because those are Major League Baseball trademarks. Statistics, trade, so you can do trades, of course, and option settings as well. This gives you an idea what the lineup screen would look like. It is kind of generic, but it works. Again, considering the fact this is 1997, so we're only about 2 years into PlayStation development, so that makes sense. Setting the starting lineup. Player status. The POW icon indicates the physical status of a player. The more green, the greater his vitality. If your pat's green, if it's half green, and half blue, that means he's in ordinary condition. Solid green, best condition. So now you're trying to do like that biometrics type thing, which some people like and some people don't. It's kind of like that weird team chemistry that some video games try and implement. I guess for some games it works. Really, I don't pay a lot of attention to that, and I just kind of play anyway. There talks about the different training modes, pitching, running, fielding, total offense, and total defense. So it's nice that there's some training to be had here. So the scenarios, there are 20 of them, not 25. I almost said 25. I had to stop myself. So you got Deadly Marathon, Counterattack, Bottom of the Ninth, Getaway, Clash of the Giants, Miracle, Birth of a New Star, The Menace. These are kind of cool. I am looking forward to looking into those. And each one has its own difficulty level. From easiest to most difficult. Season, you can play a full season between 0 and 14 teams. There are no rainouts, so all games are played following the schedule. That's kind of nice. Statistics are tracked. I'll have to see how that looks. Trades, like I said, so giving you a little bit of a general manager vibe. More information about the different viewpoints. So now when you're pitching, for example, you can have a view behind the pitcher instead of behind the batter. So that's kind of nice. Hardball did that originally. And then a nice section for tips and techniques here that I can guarantee you most people who bought this game did not bother to read these. Even with instruction manuals, and I'm a big champion of instruction manuals, maybe 3 out of every 10 people who bought these games actually looked at the instructions. They just kind of popped their disc in and said, let's go, let's get this done. So I get it, I understand, but I was not one of those people. I always read my instruction manuals when I got new games. Usually I would buy them at the mall, like the Holyoke Mall, for example, which is close by to where I was living and still close by to where I live. I would buy the game, I would go down to like the food court or Cafe Square, I'd get myself something to eat, and I would open the game and I would read the instruction manual while I was eating and then go home and play. That was kind of how I did things. There are 15 different stadiums. You can check out the different stadiums here. That is kind of cool. More stadiums. And then there's a nice little notes section, although no one really used these. No one really wrote in their instruction manuals, especially if there weren't passwords to track. So, bottom of the ninth, 97. I'm looking forward to trying this. I've played the original bottom of the ninth, and I have talked in the past about the fact that I did play the arcade game some, although not as much as I would have liked. But I'm interested in trying this, and it's in really great shape. So let's move on to the main event, the game that Twitter voted I should open on this episode of Unsealed, and I'm going to do that right now. This is MVP Baseball 2004 with Albert Pujols on the cover. This is the second MVP Baseball game after the debut in the 2003 season, so there are some improvements to be had here, but the game generally feels the same with some improvements, as I said, including mastering the art of hitting, and that's what's promised on the back of the case here. You can see some of the visuals. The visuals look good, especially for PlayStation 2, Xbox era. We'll take a look at more of these features. EA Sports Pure Swing system. You're in complete control of the batter's box with the innovative EA Sports Pure Swing system. Big play control. Rob home runs, hook slide to avoid tags, and run over the catcher with big play control. Cooperstown Collection and the Minors with legendary players, classic stadiums, and every AA and AAA team. You have more options than ever. That is a big plus. 120 season Dynasty mode. You can play 120 seasons. Where are you getting this kind of time? I don't know where you're getting it from. I wish I had that kind of time. Even if I took this summer when I have some downtime after the school year's over, if I spent the summer playing nothing but this, there's no way I could get through 120 seasons. There's no way. I would not devote that amount of time. But there are some people who are baseball purists who would certainly do it. That's just not me. Join the EA Sports Nation. Go yard against players across the country in a one-on-one or tournament online game. So, of course, online play was starting to become a thing by the 2003 year, 2004 sports year. So this is not surprising to see. Unfortunately, as you can take a look at the game, there is the seal at the top, by the way, but there are pieces of the plastic that are missing. There's even some cracking in the case, so I'm a little concerned about how this is going to turn out when I open it up, but we're going to go ahead and open it anyway and basically put this game out of its misery because it needs to be opened so we can check the condition before any more damage happens. So let's go ahead and get this guy open. There we go. Pretty easy to remove the plastic when it's half removed already. And then we'll go ahead and take the ID seal off, and we'll take a look and see what's on the inside. I am back to using my headset, by the way. I'm thinking the sound might be a little bit better. While I do like using the external computer, I think that having this Razer headset with the sound card built in, I'm hoping the sound is going to be okay. You guys can let me know in the comments what you think. Let's go ahead and open this up. I've got to be careful because, like I said, I hear the disc rattling around in here. Oh, my goodness. Not good. All right. So there's the piece of the case. Like you can see, like bits and pieces of the case that I got to kind of get rid of. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of empty that out. The case isn't an awful shape. I do want to look at the disc real quick. The disc has been kind of beat up a little bit because it's moved around a little bit. You can see maybe like some of the cracking a little bit. It's not too bad. I do have this in pretty good condition already. So I guess this is more of a rescue job than anything else. So here is the case that you see it with the MVP Baseball disc and the instruction manual as well. We're going to go ahead and take the instruction manual out, and we're going to see what is being advertised here. NBA Live 2004, a game that I have opened on this show in the past when I was talking about NBA Live versus NBA 2K. So you probably remember that if you go back a year or two. This is an ad for that particular game. Here's Albert on the front. When we open the manual is in black and white. Again, it is not a surprise. Talking about all the complete controls, talking a little bit more about here about the EA Sports Pure Swing system. To hit the ball in the air, you press the left analog stick up to the left or up to the right. So again, you can kind of aim where you're hitting the ball, which makes sense for situational hitting. Hit the ball on the ground, you press down. Hit the ball to the left, obviously you tilt the stick to the left, or hitting the right, you tilt the stick to the right. Pitching, I've always been a fan of pitching in this game because it uses the pitching meter. I still use the pitching meter today, even playing like in MLB The Show. I'm a big fan of meter pitching as opposed to just straight like weird timing stuff. That is what I do. The MVP games 2003 to 2005 are some of my favorites of all time. The pitching is great. The batting is great. The presentation could certainly use some work. It's not awful, but it is not the best. That's the only thing I think that the only knock that I would put on the MVP games overall. Big play control, so you can dive or stretch for a ball out of your reach by pressing the right analog stick toward the ball. To climb the wall, you obviously press the right analog stick up. You lift that up to try and climb over the wall and catch a home run. Or to make a sliding catch, you can press down. So that is pretty cool as well. So we do have all of the minor league teams here. Some of these minor league teams, unfortunately, I believe are going away just because of COVID and the economy and such. But it's nice to see those. And the Montreal Expos are still here. So we get the Edmonton Trappers and the Harrisburg Senators. Back when the Expos were a thing. Peace out to Montreal. So you got Exhibition, you got Dynasty Mode with all kinds of different options for the Dynasty Mode that you can mess with. Team management, transactions, rosters, payroll. So if you're into that, I'm not really. I'm more into just the action on the field and not so much the nuts and bolts of what makes a team. But I definitely understand people that are more into that. And then, of course, you have all of the online stuff. And again, at this particular point in time in the sixth generation of consoles, online play was starting to become more and more of a thing. Online didn't fix games, so if a game was busted, you weren't putting a patch in. It was just enabling multiplayer play, and that was awesome. If you just wanted to play against a buddy who was living on the opposite side of the country, go for it. And that's really the best use of multiplayer, online multiplayer, I should say, at least in my opinion. I know not a lot of people agree, and that's okay. There's a home run showdown option. I always loved what EA did with their home run challenges, where it wasn't just a straight home run derby. There were always different ways to play, which made them exciting. And in all honesty, that's what I play more often than not, as I play the mini games, either the home run showdown or here the pitcher showdown, where you have to select the right pitch or you have to execute the right pitch. I love that as well. My MVP, and this is the interesting thing about the 2004 sports year for EA, is they implemented something called the EA Sports Bio. And with that, the more EA Sports games you played for the 2004 sports season, as long as you had the EA Sports Bio that would update on the same memory card, you would unlock certain things in certain games. So like if you played enough of Madden, or if you played enough NCAA, you would unlock something in Madden. Or if you played enough baseball, maybe you would unlock something in Tiger Woods 2004. I always loved EA Sports Bio. I wrote a story for a website on EA Sports Bio a few years ago. I think it's still floating around because I think I saw someone link to it on my Retro Referee account a long time ago. But EA Sports Bio is one of the cooler things that EA had done because it made everything like under one umbrella. And it convinced you to buy more EA Sports games in order to unlock things. And you did it naturally. You didn't have to buy it or like use a microtransaction to get it. It was just through standard gameplay. And I love that. What else is here? Anything else major? There are rewards, MVP rewards, like you can unlock old school players, you can unlock old school fields, and that's awesome. Again, the story of these games in the sixth generation of consoles, which was just before the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era, we started to get our microtransactions, was that you could unlock so much stuff just through regular play. And honestly, there were still cheat codes at the time. So if you didn't have all that time to spend, that's okay. You could go ahead and find cheat codes either online or reading video game magazines and unlock the stuff that way. And I was always a big fan of that. But you would execute different feats on the field, like you would strike out the side, or you would score 5 runs, or whatever it is, and you would get MVP points, and then you could use those points to unlock things in the game. And I love that about the MVP series, that and many other things as well. And you can register your game online. You can register your EA game online with a number down there. I don't think it really matters now, but back in the day you could. And man, remember EA Sports Big? We opened up NBA Street on this channel. I miss the EA Sports Big brand a lot. I think it was pretty awesome. So that is a pair of baseball games for you for this episode of Unsealed. I do have another baseball-ish kind of game that I'll be opening in a few weeks. That is one of the worst baseball-type games I have ever played. That will be fun to do. Probably do that in April. In the meantime, the next episode we're going to run, next week, we're going to open up a brand new sealed golf game for the Super Nintendo from 1991. I cannot wait to do that one. It is going to be very painful to sit on the sidelines and wait to open that up, but that is going to happen next week as the weather gets a little bit warmer around here in southern New England, and I can actually start thinking about golf for the first time instead of thinking about wearing 18 layers of clothing to keep myself warm. That's it for this episode of Unsealed. This is episode number 175. I thank all of you for taking the time to watch, whether you've watched one episode, 1 minute of one episode, or all 175, or anything in between. I really appreciate that. It means the world to me. Until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll do it again real soon. Until then, take care.